Thank you, Daniel. It is beautiful if you make it so, and I think Daniel is a really good demonstration of how Unity Spiritual Center has taken a time of challenge. You're not here in Unity Hall, the singers are not here in Unity Hall, but we found a way to bring in people like Daniel and Karen and Dedre through this time, creating an opportunity for ourselves and for them. And yay, Unity Spiritual Center, we are number one in invitations to Daniel Nahmad in making it beautiful. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Unity Spiritual Center community. So grateful to be here with you today, where we are continuing on in our new series called Beguiled by Beauty. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you before I got into our series today is that we are also in 2021 looking at a whole new theme that overarches our entire year. And through Unity Worldwide Ministries, we are following their theme. And so here's what it is: how to stay centered no matter what. Anybody need that? Because I know I have. How to stay centered no matter what. This is what we're going to be looking at overarching this year as we look at the 12 divine gifts that we each have to support us in staying centered no matter what is happening in any given moment. And so during the month of January, that gift that we are focusing on is our gift of faith. Our ability to perceive our world centered in the divine. And so I want to share with you our affirmation for faith today within this overarching theme of I am staying centered no matter what. My faith assures me that every event in my life has meaning and brings gifts. My faith assures me that every event in my life has meaning and gifts to it. So that is such a perfect statement for our focus today in Beguiled by Beauty, which is that we were made for the beloved. We were made for the beloved. This idea that not only is God the beloved, so we were made for God, we were made for this beloved, but that we too are the beloved of God. That we too are that very love that God is. And so and I'm using for this series the book Beguiled by Beauty by Wendy Farley. And within this particular chapter of the book, Wendy talks about a mystic by the name of Julian of Norwich. Julian of Norwich lived in Norwich, England at a time, okay, so we're going through our own time, but listen to what she was walking through in that time. First, there was the Black Plague that was over England, where 60% of the population was killed by the Black Plague. So here we've got this Black Plague going through, but that's not it. In addition to that, during that exact same time, the Catholics were starting the insurrection. That was just starting up within England at that time. But that's not all. In addition to that, what else was just starting up was this 100-year war. And if that's not enough, the peasants who were going through all of this decided to have an uprising. And it's through all of that discontent and anger and upset and everything else that Julian of Norwich arrives on the scene. You know, that taking on that mystic idea of God as beloved. And what Julian of Norwich believed at that time was that the people had a mistaken idea of God. So I want to share with you. She believed that a significant part of their suffering was the belief that God was angry and rejected them. She likened humanity to someone who had fallen into a ditch and cannot see where they are. Their body is full of pain and distraction. They feel isolated because they cannot see that they are intimately connected to God and to all beings. Julian says that the worst part of all of this is that such a person has forgotten God's tender and unconditional love for them and for all creation. And all of this, the greatest hurt which I saw, was lack of comfort. For he could not turn his face to look on his loving Lord, who is very near to him, in whom is full comfort. So Julian is inviting the people of that time to recognize and realize that all of this that they were going through, the Black Plague and the suffering that came along with that, and what was happening politically and with the people rising up, all of that was not because God was judging and punishing us. You know, it's the human experience, isn't it? We continue to go through these things, and we continue to hear sometimes that it's God's punishment of us that has brought us to this place. Now, I know in Unity we don't believe that. We do not have that teaching that God is punishing us. And yet at the same time, I wonder if you, like me, can catch those times in your own mind where you thought to yourself you must have done something wrong to deserve what it was that you were going through. Or if only I had said the right prayer, or if only I had done the right thing, or if only I knew the right words, then this would be better. It would be resolved in some way that we need this to be different. And we think somehow, you know, there's something wrong with us. I have not shown up with enoughness. I'm not worthy. Forgetting who we are. Thinking that this is somehow a moment in which God is punishing us or we are receiving something that we deserve. Perhaps you recognize that idea, even as we don't hold that idea here in Unity. So Julian is inviting us to the remembering that God is the beloved. God is love. God, as Unity says, is good and intends for us to experience our good. This is the truth, and we have forgotten. We fall into a place of forgetfulness each time that we find ourselves in this place of anger and despair and hurt and blame. And we are invited once more to come back to the remembering that we are made for the beloved. We are made to experience the beauty of life by giving ourselves over fully and completely to that beloved of which we are a part, of which we are one. I want to share with you today in Scripture from the book of Psalms. This is from Psalm 16, chapter 7 through 11. And when you read the book of Psalms, what you'll discover is that many, many times the beginning of the psalm is this lamentation about what's wrong, this feeling of being separated from the divine, and that at some point within the psalm it reverses to remember, oh yes, God is my beloved and is here with me, supporting me through this, and then the words of the psalm will shift. So we're picking this psalm up right where those words begin to shift. And this is what we're told. I will praise the Lord who counsels me. I'm going to just stop right there to remind us all that no matter what it is that we are walking through, our beloved God is speaking to us through that wisdom that is within us, and that beloved is counseling us. And that when we turn within, giving thanks to God that wisdom is there, we are assured, the psalm tells us, that counsel is there for us. Even at night, the psalm says, my heart instructs me. Now, not just the physical night, right, that we go through, but those times in our lives where it feels dark, where we feel alone, where we are upset, where we feel betrayed or angry. The psalm is reminding us that even in those times, God is there as our beloved, counseling us, supporting us through our inner wisdom at what is ours to do. The psalm goes on to say, I keep my eyes always on the Lord. With him at my right hand, I will not be shaken. We've talked before in Unity about this idea of the golden key, right? Like when you find yourself wandering off into the desert again of despair and hurt and anger and upset, that what we are invited to do is to golden key it, to turn our eyes back to God, to return back to the beloved, to remember the truth of our being. I keep my eyes always on the Lord, and I will not be shaken. Therefore, my heart is glad, and my tongue rejoices. Think about that. What would it be like if your tongue was rejoicing? Right? Words are so powerful. The words that we use are so powerful. And so words in which our tongue is rejoicing are words that remind us to speak in that wisdom, to speak with that love, to speak with that compassion, to speak with that understanding. Then our tongue will be rejoicing with those words. My body will also rest secure. You know, how many times when we get caught up with what is occurring in our day, anxious, irritable, upset, and then we have trouble sleeping at night. We can't find the rest that we need because of the thoughts that are churning in our mind. But the psalm reminds us that if we remember to turn back to God, even our rest will be secured. Because you will not abandon me to the realm of the dead, nor will you let your faithful ones see decay. God does not abandon us. There's nowhere that God is not. God is here in each and every moment. We're reminded of this so that we can be secure in this moment. You make known to me the path of life, and you will fill me with joy in your presence, your eternal pleasures at your right hand. Can you know with me that God is always present no matter what is occurring in the world? So, here we are, 10 days into this new year, 10 days into January. And I'm wondering if you can think back over those 10 days and allow to come into your mind right now all the experiences, all the feelings that you have probably gone through in these last 10 days. Like, remember the joy of the Browns win? The delight that Ohio State won, right? The highs that came with it. And then perhaps the lows that followed as we have gone through this week with all of its political upheaval. Perhaps this week you have felt everything from joy and delight to anger and blame to upset to despair. Whatever the experience is out here that we are going through, what we're reminded of is that we can return again and again to the divine. Again and again to the divine. I came across this from Rosemary Fillmore Ray this week. I wanted to share it with you. It's from in the book Works and Wonders, which is a unity book. And this is what Rosemary Fillmore Ray says. The world has been changed for the better by men and women who have been angry. That's not something we typically hear. Wait, what? But anger has a purpose within us, right? To move us forward into some kind of an action. So here's what she goes on to say. We are angry about life's conditions, prejudices, bigotries, the seeming inequities of life. You know what? There's plenty to be angry about. So here we feel our anger. Perhaps you felt some anger over this past week. But then Rosemary goes on to tell us they turned their anger into creative energy. Turned their anger into creative energy. In other words, we're not staying stuck in this anger. We're acknowledging that anger. Remember, see no stranger. Process your anger. Allow your anger to be felt, but don't stay stuck there. Then we need to turn our anger. And Rosemary tells us that when they turned their anger, they turned it into creative energy. And guess what? Vaccines were discovered, laws were passed, philosophies were born, schools and charities established, books were written, and symphonies composed. You know, the anger itself is not the problem. It's staying stuck in the anger that becomes the problem. The despair itself, not the problem. The sadness itself, not the problem. The hurt itself, not the problem. It's when we stay stuck there and forget, like the book of Psalms is reminding us, that we can choose again to come back into an awareness in any given moment that God is here. Life is here. Love is here. Understanding is here. Wisdom is here. Hope is here. Grace is here. And we get to step into that as soon as we realize that God is not here to punish us. The God of my being is God the good, everywhere present, wanting me to experience my good, setting within my very being the desires of my heart. What do you desire today? What do you desire through this week that we've just gone through? What do you desire for 2021? I wrote down some of my desires, some of the things that I am desiring. I desire to trust God. I desire to experience intimacy, which means that I have to also be willing to be vulnerable. I desire to love more fully and more compassionately. I desire to be more inclusive. I desire to be more courageous. These are the desires that God has placed into my heart, that I have received from the Beloved, so that I can, as the Beloved, demonstrate those desires in my life. And in the process, reveal beauty. That's what this series is about. Beguiled by beauty, allowing ourselves to see through eyes of beauty and wonder. And so we're invited to do that no matter what's occurring in our world, no matter what violence, what disinformation, whatever is happening out there, we're invited back to the truth over and over and over again. One of the things that experts are telling us right now is that people are getting involved in these ideas and these theories of disinformation because we're seeking meaning. We're going through these experiences together, and we are clinging to anything that we can find to give us meaning to what it is that we're going through. My friends, I want to invite us back. Step back. What meaning do you want to find in any moment of any day? We're in a free fall of uncertainty. What's so different about any other day? The idea that there's certainty is only of our own making. So what meaning am I going to put into this day without needing to cling to something outside of me that disinforms or is actually hurtful for me to cling to? And what I want to suggest to us this week, that we turn back to the Beloved. When we are looking for meaning in this moment or in this day, we return again to the Beloved. We return again and again and again to the divine. And to allow ourselves to center there. And even if we experience anger or upset in that moment, to allow the divine to take that anger and upset and turn it around for us in creative ways through the words we speak and the actions that we take. So let's take a look at what will be our practice for this week as we do that. With each week's message during this Beguiled by Beauty series, we find a way to integrate contemplative practices into our daily lives. We don't need like a half an hour to sit in meditation, or we've got to pray at this and that certain time. Those are all wonderful practices, but what I'm wanting us to do is to integrate the Spirit of God in every moment of every day, no matter what is occurring, and that's what these contemplative practices invite us to do. So, you've got a couple to choose from this week. Take time to feel warmed by God's love. During our meditation time, we wrapped in a blanket. Do that this week. Wrap yourself in that blanket. Take a long, hot shower. Feel the warmth of the water. Whatever it is that you choose to do to wrap yourself in that warmth, feel the warmth of the divine within that experience. Imagine with that experience that you are bathed in the love of the God, and that you are offering to God the love within yourself. There's another thing that you could do. You could move about your day and consider then, how am I going to share this warmth with others? If you are filled with the warmth of the divine, how now am I going to share that warmth with others around me? Together, we'll practice this so that no matter what's happening in the world around us, we won't be knocked off our center. With our contemplative practices, we'll remember God is here. And as Julian of Norwich is famous for saying, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well.